Our problems with Labour is that they are not different enough from the Tories, and this is a perfect example of what those of us have been saying about Labour. Both parties have subscribed to the hatred of the public realm. Why? It's ideological. I mean, the Labour right always maintain their pragmatism. They accuse the left of being ideological. This is their ideology of neoliberalism, of using the state to serve private interests over the public good. So the Labour-run Birmingham Council has decided to sell off Athletes' Village homes at a loss. Hundreds of empty homes in Birmingham, originally designed as an athletes' village for the Commonwealth Games, will be sold by the council at a loss of more than £300 million to the taxpayer. Ayub Khan, the independent MP for Perry Barr, where the apartments are located, said it was an absolute scandal that the Labour-led authority had agreed last week to sell more than 700 homes to a private company in a deal forecast to result in a multi-million-pound loss. Now, Khan is spot on. It is an absolute scandal. And this is Labour enacting the same economic policies as the Tories. This is what neoliberalism does, and it's so prevalent in the UK. Now, I don't need to tell you that we are in a housing crisis. You know that. These are the decisions that make the crisis worse. Housing stock is owned by the council, could have immediately become council houses for residents, have been sold to private companies who, guess what, will sell it or rent it out for a profit. There are 23,000 people in Birmingham on a waiting list for social housing. 23,000. So they've just been sitting there with no one living in them for over a year. And this is the excuse as to why there are empty flats. Due to delays caused by COVID, the development was not completed in time for the event, so athletes were housed in student accommodation. The council said the Perry Barr apartments would become homes for local people instead. But the properties have been sat empty for months, with the council unable to sell them due to a lack of market appetite for 1 and 2 bedroom apartments in the area, and issues with mortgage providers valuing the properties at less than they were being sold for. Now, COVID, fine, I understand why the athletes couldn't move in, but it's been sitting there. And they say there's no market appetite to sell to them. This is how the market fails, right? As I said, there are 23,000 people on a waiting list for social housing. Those 700 flats could have gone directly to some of those people. Now, instead, they've actively allowed those flats to sit there empty, hoping they could put it on the market. And now they've just eventually flogged it off on the cheap. The private company, though, they'll be laughing. I mean, cheap housing, and then there's a profit to be made. But the residents, they lose out. The taxpayer pay for these houses, for it then to be sold to private companies and then sold back to the residents for a higher price. It's a complete scam. Now, Birmingham is one of the many highly bankrupt councils, and Labour have lost them even more money. And I thought Labour were the sensibles. You know, they were going to be really good with our finances, but once again, shows they have no clue. Now, there's been a lot of attacks on Labour from the political right. I mean, Emily Hewitson pretty much blames everything that's happening on them, despite the fact that they've only been in power for 6 weeks after 14 years of Tory destruction. Now, these sorts of attacks are just hyper-partisan rubbish. But the criticisms we have on the left of the Labour Party is the fact that they don't have the policies to address 14 years of austerity. Our problems with Labour is that they are not different enough from the Tories, and this is a perfect example of what those of us have been saying about Labour. Both parties have subscribed to the hatred of the public realm. Why? It's ideological. I mean, the Labour right always maintain their pragmatism. They accuse the left of being ideological for supporting, let's be honest, logical policies. This is their ideology of neoliberalism, of using the state to serve private interests over the public good. But what is the obsession with politicians selling off our assets? And it's a kind of trick to make it look like they are bringing down the deficit and clearing the debt. I mean, they'll even tell us that. I mean, I'm sure Rachel Reeves' logic is that there was, a 20 or so billion pound black hole. Oh, but we can sell off as much assets as possible in order for the numbers to look good. But that's all it does. It doesn't do the public any good. It's very similar to, in a way, how PFI works. It looks like you're being responsible with the public finances because the government, they're not spending too much money because it's, all being handled in the private realm. But in the long run, it obviously causes so many problems, and the so-called savings the Treasury makes by not investing, that cost just gets moved to the people, which is what will happen in this case. But it's a talking point they can use in the House of Commons or in the media. Look at us sensible politicians who are bringing the debt down. Yes, by selling off needed assets on the cheap, but obviously they leave that part out. But the losers are us, and in this case, the people of Birmingham. Now, I know this is only one example, and it's only 750 houses. In the grand scheme of things, it doesn't seem that big, but this has been the economic policy successive governments have been doing on a macro level. And this is what Labour are pursuing. They're not giving us change. They're not fixing the fundamental problems. They're not using the power of the state for good. They're simply the managers of the state, and they're not even managing it very well. After 5 years of Labour, maybe 10 if they get 2 terms, there will still be a housing crisis, there will still be high rents, and there will still be so many issues that were prevalent under the Tories. I'm excited to say that Turn Left has significantly grown this year, and with that, we've managed to produce far more ambitious content, interviewing high-profile people. We did a 12-hour live election show. There are multiple people behind Turn Left, but we are still working around our full-time work. But we would love it if this was our full-time. It means we could dedicate so much more and to bring even more ambitious content. So if you've been here from the beginning, or you've only recently become a viewer, if you like what we do, then you can help us out. Please like and share this video. Make sure you drop a comment. We want to hear your thoughts. We want to hear your feedback. And we desperately need more independent media. If you want to see a socialist media alternative thrive, then you could be part of that. So if you can, you could support us on Patreon for £3 or £5 per month, or any one-off donation. We can use that money to upgrade our equipment, to rent out a proper studio, and to start paying ourselves. This is only the beginning. Thank you for watching, and we'll see you next time.
Patreon.com, Turn Left Media. Support independent media. Support social justice that's there on social media. Thank you, Turn Left.